Today what we're looking at is solving polynomials with technology. So we have been working with factoring as well as quadratic formula, but the thing is, in the real world, most polynomials are unfactorable. So what do? We're going to use the quadratic formula each time? We could. However, what we do now is we also have technology at our disposal. So in the past, we would always use the graphing calculator to do that. For this course, I'm going to use Desmos. Down the road, depending on what program you go in, they might have a different application that they want you to use. But for the most part, the process is very much the same. So before we get started, what we want to do first of all is we need to recall what we're talking about here first. So just to the side, I'm going to put recall. And what we're recalling is when we're talking about x-intercepts, they're also known as a group of different things. Sometimes they're called the roots of an equation. Sometimes they're called the solution. They may be called the zeros. All right, and the way we get all of those is by factoring, by factors as well. But as I said, because we're not actually factoring to solve these, I'm not going to put the word factoring there. So let's take a look at the process of how we use Desmos to make this happen. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward. So the first step we would do, obviously, I'm just going to put the word Desmos so you know that that's what we're going to be using. So if I was asking you to solve with technology on a test, I would expect that you would have access to Desmos. So the first thing we would do is we would enter the equation into Desmos. And after we have that equation entered, we can either zoom in or out so that we can see the x-axis, because that's what we're interested in. We're after the x-intercept, so it makes sense that we want to be able to see the x-axis. We zoom in or out to get the x-axis. And very simple with Desmos, all we need to do then is to tap on the x-intercepts. And I'm going to put in bracket the s because depending on what polynomial you have entered, you might have no intercepts, you might have 1, you might have 5. So if you tap on the x-intercepts, they all should come up. And what we're after is we're after to record the x value. And when we record the x value, because we know that y will equal 0 for x-intercepts. So there shouldn't be any question about what you're actually tapping on then. So let's take a look at a couple of examples using Desmos. Okay, so example, solve the following. So the first one we're going to solve is 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 11x plus 10 equals 0. Okay, I could attempt to factor it, but I'm looking at it and it's, you know yourself, factoring is a lot of work. I'm looking at as far as grouping goes, and so I'm not going to actually do that. So now I'm going to bring up Desmos. So we have Desmos up here, and now we're going to enter the equation. So we have 2x cubed plus 7x squared plus 11x plus 10. Now, if you notice on the question, we have equals 0, but watch what happens when I put equals 0 here. When I put equals 0, the graph that I did have there a moment ago is gone. So what we need to do is we just need to enter that portion of the equation, and then we should be fine. Now, I'm not sure what would happen if I put equals y. Okay, if I put equals y, I also get the graph as well that I'm interested in. But if I put equals 0, it doesn't work. Okay, so that is one little issue with this software, so you have to be careful of that. So now you can see that, and I'm just going to leave it as y. You can see that I can see the graph. If I couldn't, I could either zoom out or I could zoom in. Now, the step said to go along the x-axis and see where it crosses. And all I did was tap there, and you can see that it holds the answer. It says -2, 0. Remember, we're interested in the x value, not the y, because the y should equal 0 if we've done it correctly. So we go back to our question. And if you notice what we're writing on paper, we don't see a whole lot because we're actually doing most of the work in Desmos. So we know here that x equals -2. Now, the reason I'm putting it in the curly brackets is because it's not an ordered pair that I have. It's just, in this case, one answer. Now, if you notice too, just to point out to you, that this is cubed. So we could have a possible between 1 to 3 solutions because it is cubed. If it was a 4, a quartic, I could have up to 4 answers. Okay, so let's try one more question. Okay, and this time it's going to be another cubic. So x cubed minus 6x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. Remember, when we go to Desmos, we don't want to enter equals 0. So back to our Desmos app. And here we go. I'm not going to get rid of, oh, I guess it's just as easy to get rid of all of it. So we have x cubed minus 6x squared plus 6x plus 8. Okay, again, I don't need to actually zoom in or out. You can see that with this, the way it's graphed, it is a cubic. I can going to zoom out a bit so you can see the shape of the cubic here. Now I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because, again, I'm interested in the x-axis. Now I'm going to touch one of them, and if you notice when I do that, the Desmos app actually shows the other points too. They're a light gray color. I can actually go all the way along and touch, and it will give me all 3 of those answers. Okay, notice in all 3 cases the y value of the coordinates equals 0. So those are the numbers I want: -0.732, 2.732, and 4. So back to our note, and we're almost done. So we end up having x, and it's the solution set of -0.93. I'm not going to use all those decimals, and I'm going to use 2 decimal places, 2.73, and finally the number 4. Okay, so try some of those examples as well using the Desmos app, and good luck.